Hun, I just thought of something, Simone says, as she turns her head to look at the Callie nestling up to her as they are watching movies.
Oh? What is it, love?
Chuck replies in a tired voice. Jamie hasn't probably been outside yet. His whole world after waking up has just been this ship. I think it might be a good idea to get him at least a bit acquainted with being anywhere else, you know? SJ hasn't gone out a whole lot either, let alone anywhere with an abundance of trees, the redhead points out. Chuck pulls away slightly, as she processes in realization.
Oh, dear, you're absolutely right. Oh, that must be remedied as soon as possible, she agrees, as she activates her lens. Though we'd have to find a place where Jamie would be safe, and also some place not too remote for everyone's safety.
Simone bites her cheek, as she ponders without the aid of her own net searching device. We could go camping on the Grat homeworld, she proposes with a shrug. Chuck initially bounces in joy at that idea, before quickly changing into clear concern.
Are you certain, after what you went through?
She cautiously alludes in worry.
And we have yet to have confirmation that all the invading Terrans left stranded have been arrested, she points out.
It's a big planet. We can probably land somewhere secure. Plus, I'd assume everyone else will be there with us, Simone reasons. Maybe Miki and Nodrim will know of a good place to go.
That's true. But I'm also worried about your mental health, love,
Chuck says a bit more bluntly. As long as there's no more assholes cosplaying as cavemen invading my consciousness, I think I'll be fine, Simone assures with a chuckle. The world itself is actually very nice without the cult shit.
Very well. I'll be certain to discuss the matter with Argrat tomorrow before we dock, the princess says, as she nestles back up to the Terran.
Sounds good. Having a family camping trip after the wedding would be perfect before shit gets more real. Governor Ulrich Stevenson of Titan has been detained and arrested. Termination procedure is underway, but regardless of our success, the hold on the Union government is severely compromised. Admiral, with all due respect, I don't see why we didn't immediately act collectively sooner. A man spoke among 12 others in a shared visual call. Ember, clad in her Harkon disguise, lifts a glass of whiskey to sip from. Her holographic facial reconstruction masterfully simulates the now deceased old man's mannerism as the glass came to his lips. After setting the glass back down, Harkon addresses the remaining High Epsilon of the Rebirth Combine. They are leaders of organizations and powerful people who came together to assure that Terran kind is to survive and thrive under the coming Empire. Although they all have differing ideas of how to accomplish that, their motivation to play ball with one another is immense. However, the one to unite them all is no longer walking among the living, and only represented by stealing his existence. Without the Admiral, Ember knows her own vision for the future will be quickly swept under the rug, as the others figured out who ought to be leading the charge. If we acted as you suggest, then we would have prematurely sparked direct warring conflict with the Union, meaning our own influence and power would be pathetically dwindled before our Lord's arrival. Do you honestly believe they'd see us in a favourable enough light to entrust us to lead our people on their behalf, if that was to happen? Harkon counters coldly. No. We must keep our focus on our other preparatory endeavours. We still have a duty to roll out the carpets. Despite our severely loosened grip on the Union, we are more than capable. We just need to be more cautious and mindful moving forward. Mistakes are simply more costly, but our successes will be just as rewarding. The previous speaker concedes to the Admiral, with a frustrated but accepting nod. Another individual on the screen then takes her turn to speak with Harkon.
But what about this new out-of-the-blue Federation? If it succeeds in forming, then it will more than likely nullify anything we accomplish. I know it's unlikely to be a proven success, but all the more reason I believe that we should reallocate resources into sabotaging it. If we play our cards right, we may even spark another war between them, she says.
Doubtful. Ember's daughter, Simone Thatch, was present in the initial meetings, which means they already most likely know of the Empire. Meaning even if the Federation itself fails, they still have the groundwork to operate together effectively, the Admiral informs, to the chagrin of every person on the screen. But the Federation will fall to the Empire regardless. But if we wish to see its glory in our lifetimes, it is essential that we succeed in destabilizing what we can. The Kali fleets, according to our reports, show that they already pose a real rival to the Union.
But not this Federation, or Central for that matter. How can we even hope to bank on the Kali's planned galactic civil war? They'll be decimated, and whatever's left will be serving our opposition, another member points out. And that's if the Federation doesn't attempt to attack the Kali preemptively.
They wouldn't dare. Central would intervene if that were the case, which would put things more in our favor, the initial speaker says.
Unless Central is informed of the Empire, regardless of the Federation or anything to do with the Kali. When Central is informed, then it's practically a guarantee that the Empire will not see the galaxy as prime for conquering, and won't be for who knows how long. A new person speaks. Central already effectively knows. The Noxie no doubt are aware to some capacity.
But not truly aware of the grand majesty the Empire has become, or its true goals.
As the people on the screen debate on and on, Ember sits back slightly in mostly pretend consideration. Her plotting thoughts twist and turn as she formulates the best course forward to unveil the new plan. Once she does, she holds up a disguised hand to silence the others.
We hope to decisively break the galaxy's spine, but seeing that isn't so simple to accomplish, I only see two paths to pursue. We accept that it won't be us to guide our people into the fold of the Empire, and allow our successors to take up the mantle. Or, we cause as much chaos as feasibly possible, that there would simply be too much for our adversaries to attend to. Stretch them all as thin as possible, before decisively breaking them where it matters most. It's a gamble, but it's our best chance to invite the Empire in at a sooner time than even they would have expected.
How do you propose we do that, Admiral? An individual inquires.
A widespread pandemic of a dangerous Deathworld invasive species.
Harkon presses onto the console to share a screen of data and visuals of a completed side project.
With the assistance of the Empire's technology, and the Children of Gaia's smuggling operations, we have created a subspecies of Malachite. One that, once hatched from their eggs, will rapidly grow and asexually reproduce at ludicrous rates. A bioweapon of disposable soldiers that are all genetically pre-programmed to serve their masters. A single clutch can spread to a force of thousands within a standard week. We dispense these in hidden populated areas across the galaxy, and we'd have our moment to act once they've been unleashed.
The call continues in silence for a few moments, proving to each other that this is all new information to everyone. This one of Ember's projects, I presume? Why keep this in the dark? Someone finally asks.
Because according to her, it's not yet perfected, Harkon answers, before bringing up footage of specimens being researched and observed. This subspecies only has a 3-month lifespan at most, and although programmed to serve and be loyal, their current limit of developed intelligence is little more than rats. They will be docile towards their masters, but utterly lack understanding of more complex commands. But seeing the position we are placed in, I believe they will serve well enough as a terrorizing bioweapon. With it, we sow galactic-wide chaos, and then strike where it matters most.
Confidence seems to rise throughout all the faces of the Rebirth Combine. Then we should all prepare to assist in the dispersal of this weapon, one says, to the other's immediate agreement.
Indeed. You will all be independently contacted and provided your particular missions soon. That concludes this meeting, Harkon informs, before ending the call.
Making sure that her whole console is deactivated,
and scan for possible intruding viruses or AI, Ember finally deactivates her disguise. Her helmeted face lets out a drawn-out sigh, as the stress of assuming another identity proves tiring. She has been an efficient actor in her past, but slip-ups were not acceptable in any form or fashion at this point in time. Standing up, she takes a moment to stretch out her developed stiffness. Once satisfied, she wanders over to a barren wall and walks through it. Well, more like it perfectly parts around her, as if made of a living gel or liquid, though it fully forms back into a fully solid material after she fully passes. The hidden room on the other side is a large personal living space equipped with everything a person could need. There's a kitchen, lavatory, bathing space, media entertainment area, office space, and even an adult Manarian male in mid-conversation with a holographic projection of a far older female who is lounging across a couch, meant for someone with wings. "Personally see results soon," Ember catches the male saying in the Manarian language. Upon her footsteps, the plumes of the Manarian twitches, acknowledging her presence. "If this is what must be done, then it indeed addresses concerns. However, those promised results are nothing but just that. Promises. See that they are not empty." "Of course, Matriarch. Do you have further inquiries?" the male asks. "Not at this time. Continue with your reports, but..." the older female says, as a holographic form leans forward. "Please do remind my Terran that the Empire is patient. We will fulfill our destiny regardless if she's there to see it. If she wishes Terrans to have an honourable place under it, I advise to not fail again. I may be fonder towards the apes than my constituents, but there's nothing I can do when the High Matriarchs and Patriarchs see them as more trouble than they are worth." "I will, Matriarch Nera," the male replies, with a light fluttering of his patterned wings. "Be well, Lorik. Make your Patriarch and family proud," the Matriarch farewells, before the hologram flicks away. Lorik reclines his head back slowly, and releases a thrumming sigh. His wings loosens up from their stiff positions, and Tailgrasper lets go of a nearby wall railing. With the Matriarch in charge of Terran relations gone, Ember approaches the man from behind. She moves between his wings and presses herself to his back. The face of her helmet rests on his powerful exposed shoulder muscles, as her arms hook up to grasp his thick, fur-covered chest. "Seems she took the new plan well," Ember remarks in fluent Manarian. "The other heads of the Rebirth Combine are on board as well." "Of course they are. They are frightened and have little choice," Lorik states, while his thrumming picks up in a more positive attitude. "My people, on the other hand, we have nothing but choices. Consider yourself lucky one as influential as Nero is choosing you." "They won't be disappointed. I will make it happen no matter what needs to be done," Ember assures, as her voice softens into a still resolute whisper. Using his Tailgrasper to lightly tug her away, Lorik turns to look her directly in the eye. "Do what you must, but only if the Empire has a bountiful galaxy to rule afterwards," he cautions gravely, before reaching out with his 4-digit clawed hands to grasp the side of the Terran's helmet. He then cradles it up to look at him directly. "As I said, the Empire won't be disappointed," she reaffirms sternly, despite her hands now freely exploring the Manarian's torso and unfastening his mostly lower covering clothes with demanding initiative. "Stressful day at work," the man muses, as his thrum deepens. With a click and release, he pulls the mask-like helmet free from the woman's head. Staring at him with glowing cybernetic eyes that rests in an implanted face-shaped metal surface that spanned her forehead, temple and nose, Ember smirks. Troy wakes up at the sound of a comm call notification. Seeing that it's not marked as urgent, he takes a moment to stretch and yawn. However, his movements are restricted by the tangle of snoozing grat he finds himself in. Blinking at the wetness in his eyes brought on by his yawn, he clears his throat and finally accepts the call, not paying attention to who it was. "Yo," he says, in more groan than voice. "Hey, wanna go shopping with me, Chuck and SJ?" Simone asks. "Sure thing, buddy. Shopping for what?" Troy replies, wishing that he had a free hand to wipe his eyes. "We're gonna furnish and decorate their personal room. We already know they really want a beanbag bed for it. Could use your expertise to help pick out other stuff. Oh, and we want to plan a future camping trip with everyone, so we're getting things for that too." Troy sits up, causing the two grat to chitter in waking surprise, as they get partially dragged up along with him. "Oh, hell yeah, getting dressed now. Can Miki and Nodrin come?" the man asks, catching the slightly alarmed attention from both grat. "I was just about to invite them along too. Chuck and I need to ask them about a few things, so that would be perfect," Simone says with a chuckle. "Awesome. Hey guys." Troy looks back and forth to show that he's now addressing them directly. "We're all invited to go shopping with Simone and Chuck. Wanna go?" Miki reaches up and loosely wraps her arms around the Terran's neck and slashes her head against his arm. "Yes," she mumbles in a tired laugh. Nodrin puts on their comm and connects to the call. "We will be ready soon. Just wake up," they inform groggily. "No problem. Just don't take too long. Chuck is offering to buy everyone breakfast," Simone informs, the cheekiness of her tone all too clear. Nodrin's four eyes widen and look at Miki. "Dearest, Chuck is purchasing us breakfast," they update. In an almost violent thrash backwards that peels herself away from the other two in the cuddle pile, Miki crashes off the bed and to the floor. After some flailing and scampering sounds, she re-emerges, pulling on her trousers in fast, excited hops. "Hurry! Hurry!" she chitters at the other two, still completely undressed individuals. Simone stands by with the others as the ramp lowers. A little after contact is made with the floor, the Terran walks down with her fiancé at her side. Sweeping her eyes curiously around, much like the last time she was here, there's dock workers dressed in orange markers zigzagging around, moving power cells, transporting crates and running checkup diagnostics on landed vessels. Anyone who catches sight of her and her company shows a range of caution and glances of oddly positive recognition. Her eyes land on a nearby orange-drabbed Vicroy, the very same worker she encountered before. Much like that last instance, they stand frozen, holding a datapad in their tentacle trunk. Simone lifts a hand to wave at them, but she's interrupted by being jostled. The two grab bolt around her side and look around excited to experience a new place. Shaking her head with a roll of her eyes, Simone checked up on SJ, who sits around Chuck's neck. They have their head perking up, clearly anticipating what they are going to get for their room. Troy then passes by in a slight jog to catch up to the grat and to make sure they don't accidentally scare any of the workers. Expectantly, the redhead then tilts her head towards the worker, surprised to see the 12-foot-tall non-Deathworlder approaching. "Welcome to Kamoy Station. May I please have you sign here?" they ask. Clearly still incredibly nervous, they extend their trunk out to hand over the datapad to the Terran. Right, yes, of course," Simone agrees, after a moment of her brain adjusting. She takes the pad and quickly signs off on it, as the Chief of Security, and hands it back. "We all good to continue?" the redhead asks with a smile. "Indeed. Have a lovely stay at Kamoy Station," the worker responds, as they check the datapad and turns to saunter off, but looks back at Simone again. I'd like to apologize for my behavior when you last visited. This is my first job, and I listened to a lot of Deathworlder Dealer, and I believed a lot of it. It was very unprofessional and terribly rude of me. All our visitors deserve the same respect, regardless of Deathworlder status.
Simone looked up and down the Vicroy before smirking, just now noticing that they are little past what a Terran would consider a teenager. To be fair, I was involved in breaking a restaurant's floor last time I was here, Simone jokes, before tenderly rubbing a hand on her partner's shoulder. You're all good, kid. I appreciate the apology. Good luck with the rest of your shift. The Terran gives the worker a casual salute and starts heading off with Chak, before the troublesome trio gets too far ahead. It was great to see you again, Chak waves as they depart. Simone and Chak follow the other three into the main plaza, where the tourists and visitors can peruse the tacky market before going to where they need to actually go. Other than a few switched out owners, it's practically identical from the first time they came, including the constant cautiously fearful stares of individuals around them. Unlike the workers, it seems this place overall hasn't flipped on their feelings about Terrans, let alone the uncertainty of the two accompanying Grat as well. The redhead doesn't miss this, but it honestly bothers her even less at this point. Ooh, can we look around? Miki asks, as she turns back to look at Chak. I'm afraid we can't stay for too long, as we have an important schedule to keep to, Chak replies in a genuinely apologetic tone. Miki's shoulders slump as she nods in understanding. Come on, Bo Peep. We can spare 10 minutes, right? Simone says. Chak looks up to Simone with a look of uncertainty. I suppose, but if anything happens to delay us while traversing, I'd hate to not be there when we planned. And also the reservations I set for breakfast, Chak reasons. It'll be fine. If we're 10 minutes late, you can blame it on me, Simone winks before nudging closer. Besides, wouldn't it be fun for us to browse a bit? For old time's sake? Please? The Terran adds, while widening her eyes and puckering her lower lip. Chak stares at her fiancé with her own eyes glowing, immediately understanding what the Terran is doing. With a shake of her head, she reaches up and plants an upper hand on Simone's face. Oh, by the stars, Chak chirps in a light laugh. You really couldn't resist, could you? And let the opportunity pass me up? No way in hell, Simone laughs back, as she pulls her face away from the hand. The princess glances over at the female Grat, who has a sense of renewed hope. 10 minutes. Set a timer and meet us on the far end of the market, she grants. Thank you. Miki jumps before quickly grabbing the hands of Nodrin and Troy to drag them off to the coolest thing her four eyes latch onto. When times were simpler, Chak reminisces, as she watches the three start their 10-minute adventure. They sure felt simpler, Simone somewhat agrees before adding, yet in the background it was always as it is. I'm just glad we've been able to keep up. Good point. But still, those days are behind us now. There's no going back, the Callie says in a slightly somber manner. Says who? The Terran immediately counters, before stepping away from the Callie and holding her hand up for her to accept. We're still in a lot of danger and any day can be our last. All the more reason to enjoy what we can while we're here. We may have been through a lot, but you're still the woman who dragged me through this market, and I'm still not a fan of shopping. But I hope to the stars that you continue to drag me around until I'm too old and decrepit to operate a hover chair. Because I've grown to love this, and I'm not letting any part of us go. With an adoring stare, the Callie takes a hold of the Terran's hand and squeezes it. Then I'm not going to let go either, she says in promise, before pulling the redhead with her. Let's see if we can find some toys for Jamie and SJ. I think I saw art suppliers over there, she chirps in previously hidden enthusiasm, as she scritches at the back of the now elated Wataf's head. The 10 minutes fly by as Simone finds herself holding several bags of purchased items, with the one hand that wasn't already occupied by the Callies.
When the timer comes to an end, she can tell the princess considers giving it an extension, but ultimately decides to follow through with her own set conditions. Though they are second to arrive at the other end of the market, with the 3 others already waiting. Troy and each of the Grat have bags as well, seeming to have had their own fruitful sprees of purchases. "What did you guys end up getting?" Simone questions with a smirk.
A hat!
Miki immediately reveals, as she bends down and draws the said hat from one of her bags. She swiftly places it on her head, showing that it actually fit quite well, despite being tailored for a Callie. To Simone's eye, the dark red headwear looks a lot like a fantastical historical Terran tricorn hat, but with conforming slits meant for horns to slip through. "Looking good," she chuckles, before looking to the others. Nordrin sheepishly held their bounty close to their chest. "Gifts," they ominously say with a shrug. Not wanting the redhead to question it, Troy steps up while looking down into his biggest bag. Paints and stuff. Need a refill on a few of my spray colours," he says. "Looks like SJ is super excited about something. What you got there?" The Yonward Tough happily hugs what looks to be a pen of some sort in their graspers, though it doesn't seem to be a standard writing utensil. "May take a while for them to learn, but SJ is going to be trying out digital art. Hopefully it's not too complicated to set up," Simone answers. Rubbing the back of her head, she lets out a sigh. "Sweet. So, we ought to get going, right?" Troy replies, as he generally thumbs back.
Yes, we have reservations and should make it on time, but we'll be cutting it close, so let's hurry,
Chad confirms, as she takes the lead with the redhead in tow.
"Where are we going?"
Nodrin asks curiously. Chuck points a lower arm angled upwards. Following it, everyone's line of sight is led to an outcropping structure with a repaired clear floor. Simone smirks. "Didn't Oracles say that we'd always have a seat? If so, what's the rush on the reservation?" she has to ask.
"Well, the fact that I managed to get a reservation at all is fulfilling that promise. The restaurant is currently booked for 7 months. We've been granted a table for 6 people, so I really don't want to be rude and test their generosity," Chuck informs. "Ah, right.
Gotcha," Simone replies. Once they approach the elevators, the redhead raises an eye tuft at the very same doors, open to accept them. "Second time's the charm, right?" She jests at her fiancé, who gives a single nod.
"Almost tempted to take the stairway,"
Chuck says before entering the elevator. After the doors close behind the entire group, a jingle begins to play.
"Clever use of music,"
Nodrin notes as the room rises. Rolling her eyes, Simone doesn't say anything. At least it's better than a broadcasted news report. But just as that thought occurs, the music is paused and replaced by a voice.
"Good morning and welcome back to Kamoy's Conversation. I'm your host, TB. First things first, and we take pride in our promise of transparency, I bring you an update on the ongoing case against my previous co-host, Filian Trier. As of yesterday, he was found guilty of 13 charges of hostile discrimination, 4 charges of directed calls to violence, a single charge assaulting a peacekeeper, and his most infamous charge of domestic terrorism. His ultimate sentencing is still under consideration, but he is being relocated to a central prison station. So I doubt we'll be subject to his face or voice on Kamoy for a very long time, if ever. Once again, we thank all of our remaining viewers and listeners for still being here, after our rearranging of management and name. Please come join us next week for our non-profit fundraising event, in hopes to not only undo some of the lingering effects Filian has caused, but to prevent someone like him from occurring on our fair station ever again."
Simone's eyes go wide. "Fuck," she utters, wondering what the apparent terrorist did. He seemed belligerent and a little unhinged when he reported the floor-shattering stunt, but to have gone that far? It gives the redhead a bit more appreciation for Thorber the Truthful. He was extremely ignorant and paranoid, but far from a violent individual. Still, she ought to check in on Deathworlder Dealer again to see if that's still the case. Before more answers regarding this Filion can be gleaned from the current reporter, the doors to the elevator opens and grants access to the packed Tea Rights restaurant.